Hi everyone, I'm Michael at Bad Goblin Games. Today we're going to run through a brief demonstration or mock battle with Ages of Conflict. So the goal of this video is to run through a brief game. We'll probably get in 3 or 4 turns, really just enough to demonstrate many aspects of the game, or as much as we can get in. Now, because it's a demonstration and there are certain aspects we want to show, there are probably going to be times when I may just maybe alter the course of a dice roll or change the course of an action during the game just because I need to actually demonstrate a particular situation or occurrence. And there also are probably going to be times when I'm probably not making the best what we consider tactical decisions during the game. Again, just trying to demonstrate certain situations. So enough with talking. Let's get into the game. First thing we're going to do is go through the armies that we're using, then the battlefield, and then we'll jump into the game. Thanks. Hope you enjoy.
All right, so let's kind of briefly review the items you're going to see me using as I go through the demonstration. First off is the tape measure I'll be using. This is, I guess the important thing with this is that it's marked with centimeters. Ages of Conflict is a metric-based system. Everything we do is measured in centimeters, so just make sure whatever measuring device you have on hand has centimeters marked on it. Dice, the dice are D10s, so they're 10-sided dice. I recommend each player have 5 to 10 dice on hand. If possible, having a couple different colors is good, though it's not a requirement. These little wooden tokens, these are really just for tracking purposes, and we use them to track breakpoints that units accumulate while they're in combat. And you'll see breakpoints as I go through the demo. We just use these little wooden tokens because that's just what we have on hand. You can use whatever you want. Pennies, little small poker chips, just whatever you have. Order tokens. Units are issued orders at the beginning of the turn, and the orders determine what the unit is allowed to do. So you'll see these quite a bit as I go through the demo. We have some condition tokens. You'll see one here called Disorganized. There's a few in there that help you remember if you're in a particular formation. You see one there called Testudo, Skirmishing. There's a Shield Wall token hiding behind it. So we just have these available as basically to help you remember if your unit is in a particular formation or if it's suffering from some sort of condition. This is our reference sheet. It's pretty basic. We have the turn order listed, the formations that we allow in the game, how to calculate target numbers, the options available to you with leadership actions, the movement in combat permitted with certain orders, and how terrain affects the game. Last up is just an example of a roster sheet. This is for a Wood Elf army we'll be using today. And it basically just has the unit's presence, the range, value, hand, defense, the movement, any equipment that it has, along with any kind of special rules or conditions the unit must abide by. So that's it for the items. Let's move on and talk about the armies and the battlefield. So today's demo game is going to involve an army of Normans that we're just going to be using as just a stand-in for really just kind of the stereotypical, say Middle Ages, late Dark Ages kind of army. So we'll talk about them first. So here we have some crossbowmen, and we're going to treat these as heavy crossbows. You'll notice the unit is composed of 3 bases. Each one of those bases is a company. So it's a unit of crossbowmen, and the unit is composed of 3 companies. By the way, all these Normans are Bacchus miniatures. They are 6mm miniatures. You don't have to use 6mm. We use 6. We also use 2, 3, 10, 15, and 28mm miniatures in our game. These are infantry. You can see they're nicely packed together, and again, it's 3 companies in this unit. Let's swing over. We have another unit of infantry. We have some archers in front, and we're going to give these archers longbows or war bows, as they're also known. Some more archers, and behind are some, this is heavy cavalry. Not quite, knights encased, from head to toe in plate. They're still heavy cavalry, well-trained, well-equipped. All right, let's talk about the Wood Elves. Opposing the Normans are our Wood Elves. So this is a fantasy army. Most of these are micro-world miniatures. There are a couple of exceptions, and I'll point those out. So in the back here, we have tree folk. So these are like ogre-sized or troll-sized humanoids, basically tree men. In front of those, we have some cavalry. This is light cavalry, so this is basically Wood Elves armed with longbows, or bows rather, not longbows, armed with bows. We have some infantry, some spearmen. Haven't quite finished up with their bases yet. In front of those, we have some Wood Elf archers. Let's swing on over here. We have a ballista unit. This is a heavy ballista. This is irregular miniatures. Some more Wood Elf archers. Here we have an unpainted unit of Hawk Riders. So these are 3D printed miniatures. They're more or less fresh off the printer. Just haven't had a chance to paint them up yet, but I did want to do some demonstrations with flying. And we'll talk more about flying in a few moments. And here, to finish up with the Wood Elves, are some basically some more treatment. And you see these are much larger, so we consider these basically like small monsters. And we'll talk more about monsters as we play the game. All right, let's talk about the battlefield. So the demo game is going to be played on a 6x4 table, though I'm only using 4 feet of it. The border here is made up where these units are, so that's basically the border that we'll be using. We just have a nice little standard battle mat. Not too much terrain. I did put a few pieces out here. So we have this field here, which we're basically treating as an unplowed field. A few little huts surrounding it. And so we see the ballista kind of snuggled in there. Then we have some woods, and we're treating the woods as light woods. They're still, even as light woods, it's rough ground, as is the plowed field. So anything that's rough ground impedes movement. The light woods, it does not impede line of sight, so units can still trace line of sight to like an enemy on the other side of the woods, though the enemy would receive a defensive bonus to that. The rest of the field, or the rest of the battlefield, you can see is basically what we consider smooth ground, open ground, does not impede movement. All right, let's jump into the game. All right, so we're going to get into turn 1. Now, every turn is divided into multiple phases, the first of which is our issue orders phase. Now, I've already issued orders to these units just so we can get a jump into the turn. So if we take a look, we can see that the units have orders issued to them, and you can see they're issued face down to conceal the order from your opponent. So a little bit of a fog of war effect. After we issue orders, we then determine initiative. So initiative is typically determined by your general's command value. Now, we're not using generals in this demo game. We're just using, it's a pretty standard game. So there's no generals, no heroes, no magic. So for this demo, we're just going to assume a default value of 2d10 for each side. So what that means is each side rolls 2 10-sided dice, and we're looking for successes. A success is anytime you roll a 6 or more. So whoever rolls the most successes wins initiative. So we'll roll here, and our Wood Elves will roll first. They have a 5 and a 1, so that's no successes. The Normans will roll, and we have a 4 and a 4, also no successes. So no successes for either side. That means it's a tie. So in this case, we go to the highest individual roll, which was the Wood Elves with their 5. So the Wood Elves win initiative, and they'll be the first one to activate a unit as we move into the reveal orders and movement phase. So now we're going to move into our reveal orders and movement phase for turn 1. And in this phase, there are two things that are happening. We are activating units by flipping their order token. If the order permits movement, then we move the unit now. If the unit has an order that does not permit movement, then obviously they don't move. And there's no combat in this phase. So we're not casting missiles, we're not engaging hand-to-hand combat, we're not casting spells or anything like that yet. This is just revealing the order. And if the order permits movement, then we move the unit now. This is alternating action, so each, one side. So in this case, for example, the Wood Elves are going to activate a unit, and then the Normans, then back to the Wood Elves, and so on. There's a few things I try to look at when I'm playing. The first is if there's a unit that I absolutely must activate first. Maybe I want to get a charge off before anything happens, or move a unit out of danger, then I'll activate that unit first. If there's maybe a situation where I want to provoke my enemy, or my opponent rather, I should say, into a certain action, then maybe I'll activate my units to try to make that happen. And if anything else, if all that fails, then I will simply activate my units that aren't moving. So let's, with that in mind, let's kind of demonstrate some of that. So the Wood Elves win initiative, so they're going to go first. So we find a unit we want to activate. In this case, we're going to activate these archers. So we flip their token. They have first missile order. So with first missiles, they don't move. So they are activated. And now we go over to the Normans. And for the Normans, we have a unit of crossbowmen over here. So we're going to activate them. So we flip their token. They have march orders. March orders permit you to move up to your quick pace over smooth ground. And smooth ground is something like this. This is rough ground for our game. This is smooth ground. So with march orders, they can move up to quick pace, which is double their move. Their move is 5. So when they move double that, they move up to 10 centimeters. So they will move 10 centimeters. Let's move them forward. And we're going to move all their tokens with them. So now we go back to the Wood Elves. And again, we're just going to activate a unit that's not moving. So we're going to activate this ballista unit. So they don't move. Second missiles does not permit movement, so they stand still. We'll go back to the Normans. We activate this infantry. So they're on march, so they can move up to 10 centimeters. So they're going to move almost right at, or basically they're just at the edge of this unplowed field. Whoops. They are about a centimeter away. We'll go back to our Wood Elves. We're going to activate these treemen here. Now their base move is 6. So with march orders, they can go up to double that. So they can go up to 12 centimeters. And now we're going to go back to the Normans. And we're going to move to the other side of the battlefield. And let's flip over these archers. They have march orders, so they're going to move forward 10. Wood Elves. Let's see, let's activate this cavalry, this light cavalry. Now this is a light cavalry, so their base move is much faster than infantry, for example. So their base move is a 9. So on march orders, they can go up to 18. So that would allow them to go about that distance, which they don't really want to do. So they're just going to move up to about there. So you don't have to move the entire 18. Okay, go back to our Normans. We have another unit of archers here. They're going to move up to 10 with their march orders. And the Wood Elves. These archers have first missiles, so they will stand where they are. The Normans, now these are Norman knights here, and they were given charge orders. So charge orders, that's the fastest pace available in the game. So with charge orders over smooth ground, you can go up to 3 times your move. Now this is heavy cavalry, it's not light cavalry. So this is, you know, big heavy horse, heavily armored knights and so on. So their base move is only a 6, whereas the light cavalry is 9. So even at a charge pace, they're only moving 18 centimeters. So they're not, you know, quite tearing across the field here. But they're going to move 18. Just still a good distance. You know, and they're knights, right? I mean, their goal is to, you know, they're haughty and a little hot-headed, and, you know, of course, they think they're better than everybody else. So their goal is just to get across that field and to smash into the enemy. So the charge pace we have into the game, in this game, it's not a pace that's really intended to for your unit to fly across the field as quickly as possible, at least for the entire length of the charge, right? So the point of when you're charging is your units are moving quick, not quite a sprint, but it's a quick pace, and some soldiers run faster than others, and there's, you know, anxiety, and there's you know, energy, there's adrenaline, and so on. It's hard to maintain that nice cohesive formation. So if we have a situation like this, where these knights charged across the field and did not encounter an enemy, so they did not engage in hand combat with an enemy, there's a chance they lose cohesion. So to test for that, we make a command check, which is 2d10, and I need 1 success. So I need a 6 or more. I rolled a 3 and an 8, which means I passed, so they maintain cohesion. If I had failed, they were to receive a disorganized token. All right, let's go back to our elves. This infantry here, they're going to trudge forward at a march pace. We'll go back to our Normans, and there's some infantry back here still, so they're going to move forward at a march pace. Not quite keeping up with the knights, these impetuous knights. Back to our wood elves, and we have some tree folk here. They're going to march forward at 10 centimeters. And that is all the Normans. The Normans have no more units to activate, but there is one more unit of Wood Elves still. We have our Hawk Riders here. Now the Hawk Riders, you see there's a token here called Airborne next to them. So that basically means they are flying. So there's 3 different elevations we have in the game. There's the ground elevation, which is where everyone else is. So basically all infantry and cavalry, they're at ground level. Flyers have airborne available and soaring. So units at airborne or flyers at airborne or are flying, but they're low enough to the ground where they can take part in the battle. So if these Hawk Riders have bows, which they do, they can cast those arrows at the Normans, and likewise the Normans can shoot back at the Hawk Riders. If the unit is soaring, then it's too high to actually take part in the battle. It's, like somewhere above the clouds. It's really just too high. Now, we know if you're flying and you drop a rock, it's obviously not, there's not a range to that point. It's going to fall down until it hits the ground. Though for game balance purposes, we say if a unit is, if the flyers are soaring, they cannot engage with a unit on the ground, just for game balance purposes. So these flyers are going to charge. Now they are skirmishing, which means they do not risk losing cohesion. So they have a pretty high rate of movement. So they're going to fly forward at 30 centimeters, which is going to put them in the vicinity of these crossbowmen. But again, since they're skirmishing units can move at that charge pace without risk of losing cohesion. And we can see there that they are basically right at those crossbowmen. And when we get into range combat, then we'll talk a little bit more about specifically what range they are at. Oops, put them back to airborne. That is all the units. All units have been activated. Now we are going to move into combat. Now that we've revealed all the orders, we're going to move into combat. So combat is alternating actions, just like revealing orders and moving. The Wood Elves have initiative, so they're going to activate first. Now the order depends, I should say the combat phase follows a strict order. And so the first units to act are those with first missiles, and then those with march orders, and then hand combat, and then those with second missiles. So the Wood Elves, since they have initiative, they're going to activate a unit first, and they're going to activate a unit with first missiles, since that's the particular phase we're in within combat. So the first one that I'll activate are these archers here. They have first missiles, and they're going to target these Normans across the way. So the first thing we're going to do is just make sure that the Normans are within range. And you are allowed to pre-measure. And these bows have a long range of 35, so it'll be well within range here. You can see they're about 30, a little bit less than that, about 29 centimeters away. So well within range, but they are out of short range. Now combat is done on a company by company basis. So we have 3 units of Wood Elves, 3 companies of Wood Elves in this unit. So we're going to attack individually, and they each nominate a target, and we'll just go across. So this company will attack this one, that one, and that one, that one. You roll a number of dice, in this case equal to the Wood Elves' ranged value. They have a ranged value of 4, so they're going to roll 4 dice. Their target number in combat depends upon the unit's defense. The Normans have a defense of 6, so we need 6s when we roll these dice. We have 2 2s and 2 8s. So the 8s are successes. Again, we need 6s. So these are 6 or more, so that's 2 successes. The Normans are now going to roll a casualty check. The casualty check depends upon the number of successes that were rolled when the Wood Elves attacked. In this case, they had 2 successes. So the casualty check here is 5 plus the number of successes. So 7. So I need a 7. I need at least one of these dice. So this is a casualty check, which is based upon the unit's command, which is 2d10. So I need one of these to be a 7 or more. And we rolled a 4 and a 6. So that's a failure. So with a failure, those Normans receive a break token. Now the break token belongs to the entire unit. It doesn't belong to a particular company. It belongs to the unit as a whole. And that break token represents a few different factors. It can be loss of morale. It can be stress, fatigue, injury. It's an accumulation of things. It's a combination of factors. And the more of those tokens you accumulate, the more stressed out, the more fatigued that unit is. And when they get to a certain point, that unit is either going to be forced to fall back, or they may just rout from the table completely. So that is one company of wood elves that attack. Let's do the other two. And again, our target number is a 6, and we have 1, 8, so that's a success. So my casualty check target number is 5 plus the 1 success, so a 6. I rolled a 6 and a 9, so that's a success, so nothing happens with that attack. Now the third company attacks. And again, we have 1 success with a 9, and then we have 3 1s, so that's ugly. So casualty check here is a 6, 5 plus 1. And I rolled a 4 and a 1. So I failed the casualty check, but I also rolled a 1 here. And that 1 is not good. Every weapon has a kill number associated with it. If a unit, or a company rather, if a company fails a casualty check and rolls that weapon's kill number, in this case it's a 1 for a bow, that company is simply removed from the game entirely as a casualty. So we're going to remove this company of Normans from the game. Now that doesn't literally mean that every soldier was cut down, right? But there's, again, there's a level of abstraction here. So think of it as that company, for whatever reason, is just its effectiveness is reduced to the point where it's no longer a factor in the battle. All right, so these wood elves are done. So we're going to take their order off. Now we're going to look at our Normans. Do they have any units with first missiles? They do not. So we go back to our wood elves. The wood elves have another unit of archers here with first missiles. So they will nominate a target, and they're going to just target the Norman archers across the way, and they're well within range. So again, we're rolling 4 dice. Now, the Norman archers over here, they have no armor. So their defense is only a 2, though they are in a skirmishing formation, which gives them a +1 to their defense. So my target number, or I should say the wood elves target number here, is a 3. So again, we have 3 companies attacking, so it's just 3 different rolls. And I rolled a 3, a 4, and 2 10s. So that's 4 successes, but I also rolled a 10. Anytime you roll a 10 when you're attacking, that is a critical success or critical hit. And that means that the unit you're attacking is automatically inflicted with a break point. Regardless of whether or not they fail the casualty check, they receive at least 1. Rolling multiple 10s doesn't give them 2. In this case, it's still just 1. But they still, those Normans must still make their casualty check. So they're going to roll. My target number is a 9, and I rolled 2 9s. So they actually passed the casualty check. The second company of Elves attacks. Again, my target number is a 3, so that's 3 successes. I have a 3, a 5, and a 6. So the Normans make their casualty check. My target is an 8, and I failed. I rolled a 2 and a 7. So that is another break token. The last company of Wood Elves attacks. And I have 3 more successes with a 4, 6, and a 9. So make another casualty check. My target number is 8. I rolled 2 2s. So that's another break token on those archers. So that was a pretty bad round for those archers. We have no more units with first missiles. So now we're going to move into units with march orders. And since the Wood Elves have initiative, they will activate first. So let's go with these archers here, this cavalry unit. And they're going to target the archers across the way as well. They are out of short range. Short range is 12, but they are within range. And it's the same situation. They're rolling 4 dice against unarmored archers, but they are skirmishers. So my target number is a 4. I'm sorry, my target number is a 3. And that's 3 successes. I have a 7, a 7, and a 9. My casualty check number then is an 8. And I rolled a 2 and a 1. So I failed the casualty check and I rolled that kill number. So one of those archer units is removed from the battle. The second unit attack, or second company attacks. And that's an 8 and a 9, so that's 2 successes. I make my casualty check. I failed. Not rolling too well right now. I rolled a 2 and a 5. So that's a break token. And now the third company attacks. And that is 3 successes with a 4, 7, and an 8. So here's our casualty check. 2 and an 8. So I rolled an 8. That's what I needed. So they passed that casualty check. So we'll take this unit, that token off. We'll look at our Normans. Do we have any Normans with missile weapons? Again, this is missile weapons. Do we have any Normans with missile weapons and march orders? And we do. We have a couple over here. We have the archers that were just shot at. And, they're going to target right back at the cavalry. So the archers, those Normans aren't quite as good as the Wood Elves. They're only rolling 3 dice when they attack. The Wood Elves are not armored, so defensive 2, but they are skirmishers. So my target number is a 3. And I rolled a 3, a 5, and an 8, so that's 3 successes. The Wood Elves roll their casualty check. I need 8. There's a 10 and a 5, so that's 1 success, so that's good. The second company attacks. It's 3 successes, including a 10. So that's an automatic break token on these elves. And they're going to make their casualty check. And they pass that. So we'll take the token off of there. They are done with theirs. We have no more elves with march orders with missile weapons, but we do have some more Normans over here. The archers that were pretty shot up, they're going to return the favor and launch their arrows back over here at these. They're not going to do that actually. And instead, they're going to target the cavalry here. So again, this represents a little bit of loss of morale, stress, fatigue, and you can make a strategic decision during the game. If you see a unit that's beginning to weaken a bit like that, you can try to pour the fire on, so to speak. So that's what we're going to do. All 3 of these companies of archers are going to target these that elven cavalry. So my again 3 dice, and my target numbers are 3. So that's 3 successes, including a critical. So that's another break token on the cavalry. Roll my save. That's a failure because I needed an 8. So that's another break token. The second company will attack. Only 1 success that time. I rolled 2 1s and a 6. So here's my casualty save, or casualty check. I needed a 6, and I did not get it because I had 2 4s. So that's another break token. And now the last unit of archers will attack. And I got 3 successes. So here's the casualty check, and I need an 8. And I pass with an 8 and a 9. So they are done with theirs. So if we go look over here, even though these crossbowmen here have march orders and they have missile weapons, the crossbows, those heavy crossbows require second missiles in order for me to use them. So even though they have those heavy crossbows, because I gave them march orders and not second missiles, they cannot cast those bolts. So that is it for March. We're going to go on to hand-to-hand. We have no units in hand-to-hand yet, so we go on to second missiles. We have 1 company or 1 unit with second missiles, and that's this ballista unit. So the ballista unit is going to target the Norman infantry across the way, across from that unplowed field. The maximum range for this ballista is pretty long at 60. Short range is 25, however, but they are still out of short range. So we roll 4 dice. That's our target, or that's our number of attack dice. Now, normally the Normans have a defense of 6, though that ballista has armor piercing, which reduces that defense by 1. So now my target number is a 5. So I'm rolling, and I've got 3 successes. I have a 5, a 7, and a 9. So I'm going to make my casualty check, and I need an 8, a 5, and a 7. So I failed, so that unit receives another break token. That is all of combat. Now let's move on to the end turn phase. All right, so now that all combat is over, we're going to move into this is the end phase, or the end of the turn. A couple things happen here. So first off, we remove all order tokens. So any unit that still has an order token sitting beside it, we're just going to take them off the table. So I'm going to do that now. And we look around, we see no more order tokens. So now we're going to give units that have these break tokens, they're going to get a chance to remove those, okay? So this is basically the unit, leader, unit commander, trying to rally the troops a bit, right? So to do this, the unit makes a command check. Again, so that's 2d10. Each success, so each roll of 6 or more, removes a token. So our Norman infantry across the way here, they're going to roll. We have a 1 and a 10, so that's 1 success. So they remove 1 token, leaving 1. Let's go to the other side of the field. And let's look at these archers here. So let me explain a bit more about these breakpoints or break tokens. So a unit can have a number of tokens equal to its current presence. The presence is calculated by the type of company and the number of companies in that unit. Okay, so this is an infantry company. Each infantry company has a presence of 1. Since there's 3 companies, that means the unit has a presence of 3. And that means this unit can have up to 3 of these break points or break tokens without suffering any problems. But they are right on the edge. If they get 1 more, they're going to test to either fall back or just rout from the table completely. So we want to get rid of at least 1 of these. So they're going to make their test. I rolled a 1 and a 4, which means they didn't get rid of any of them. So they're in a pretty bad spot. Okay, now let's check this unit. They have 1 to get rid of, and I rolled a 10 and a 6, so they get rid of theirs. The last unit to check are these. This cavalry. Now cavalry is a little bit different. Each base of cavalry gives a presence of 2. So this unit has a presence of 6, which means they can take 6 tokens, but they're still at 4, so they're close. So the Wood Elves, they don't want to lose this unit. I mean, it's a pretty important unit to them. So what they're going to do here is they're going to use a leadership dice, or leadership action. These are extra dice you have in the game that they are 1 use only, so you'll have several of them, just kind of depending upon how many you buy. And these represent basically your leaders extolling your unit. They're rallying them forward. However you really want to explain it. It's the leader having some influence with that unit. So it's an extra dice we're going to roll to try to remove some of these tokens. Didn't really work out too well because I rolled 2 4s and a 10. So it's still only 1 success. So they remove 1 token. Better than none, but not quite the result they were hoping for. So that's it for this turn. So if we look across the field, we can see that this unit, they're okay, and they've only got 3 tokens. This unit is in a pretty rough spot. As the commander of the Normans, I would be considering either voluntarily moving this unit. I might voluntarily move that unit back to give them a turn or 2 to try to remove those tokens. If I don't, then I just risk losing them completely. And then we have these Normans over here. They have 1, so they're okay. Though chances are they're probably going to receive a 1 or 2 more next turn if they continue to be the target of these archers and this ballista unit. All right, that'll do it for turn 1. We'll go into turn 2. So we start turn 2, and we had a couple of casualties on the Norman side the last turn. I've already issued all of our orders. So now we're going to roll initiative now. So same thing as before. The Wood Elves are going to roll 2 dice. I have a 5 and a 1, so that's no successes. The Normans are going to roll. And that's a 6 and a 5. So that's 1 success. So the Normans are going to go first this turn. So they're going to select a unit to activate. And, there's, again, say one of the considerations I usually take into account is if there's a unit that I absolutely just need to pull off an action with. And in this case, I'm going to say the Norman player does. So we have these knights, and these knights are eyeballing these elves here across the field, and they're like, wow, that's a really good target. Let's go kill them. So we're going to flip their order. Well, they have charge orders. So they are going to charge across the field. So we measure to make sure within range, and they're 18, so that's plenty of distance. Now a couple of things happen. Now these are knights charging across the field, right? They're cavalry. And if you remember, each stand or each base represents a presence of 2. So this unit has a presence of 6. This is infantry. Each base gives them a presence of 1. There's 3 of them there, so they have a presence of 3. Since the knights have a higher presence than the infantry, there's a chance that this infantry may just simply flee the field. So this is basically a shock tactic. This represents a heavily armored or real a unit maybe that is intimidating, charging across the field. Can this unit or will this unit stand in the face of that charge, or will the soldiers lose their nerve and flee? So the elves here are obligated to make a command check. If they fail that check, they flee the field and are removed. If they pass the check, then they have a few options available to them. But they really want to stand there. They don't want to flee. So the elf player is going to opt to use a leadership dice. So instead of rolling 2 dice as we typically will with command, we're going to roll 3 dice. So they make their roll. Let's see what happens. I need 1 success. So I need 1 6. And I get it. I have a 6 and an 8. So I only need a 1. So they stand firm in the face of that charge. The elves at this point now have some options. One is they can just receive the charge. If they have missile weapons, then they can attempt to discharge those missile weapons. And the third is they can voluntarily retreat. Now, they don't have missile weapons, and they're not going to retreat. So in this case, we just move the knights in, and we are in combat. We don't carry out the hand combat just yet. We don't do that until we get to the hand combat phase. All right, next up are the Wood Elves. And we flip a token. First missiles, so they do not move. Let's activate some Normans. First missiles, they do not move. Wood Elves, first missiles, again, don't move. There's kind of a pattern here. Another unit of first missiles. Now, we already flipped this token. Once these elves receive that charge, their token gets flipped. That does not count as actually activating a unit. So we go back to our wood elves. We're going to flip this token, march, but they're not going to move. They're going to stand pat. The key thing here is, though, when I flip that token, if I choose not to move them, I can't choose to move them later in the turn. I have to move them now if I want to move them at all. All right, Normans. We're going to activate this infantry, and they're going to trudge forward 10 centimeters. All right, let's go to the other side. We're going to activate ballista unit. They do not move. Let's activate the crossbowmen. They have second missiles this time. So second missiles prohibits movement, but they can cast their bolts when we get to combat. Wood elves, first missiles here, so they do not move. Back to the Normans. And the infantry here, we gave them a change formation order. So this is a order that you would give a unit if you want to change its formation. So right now it's in a basic line formation, but they're receiving a lot of incoming arrow and bolts from this ballistae. So they're going to try to adopt a testudo. So changing a formation is a command check. So that's 2 dice, and we need 1 success. And we got a 7 and a 4. So that is a success. So since they adopted a testudo, we're going to grab one of these little testudo tokens here, and we're going to drop it on this unit. Their turn is done. Units that are changing formation cannot move. They are done for the turn. So we go back to the wood elves. Our hawk riders, they have first missiles, so they're just basically going to fly about in a little circle and try to shoot up those crossbowmen. And that's it for the Normans, but we still have 1 order left for the wood elves. That's the treemen. With march orders, they will move ahead 12 centimeters. So they're going to be about right there. That is it for revealing orders and movement. Let's go into combat. All right, so we revealed all the orders. Everyone's moved. We're going to head into some combat now. So again, our order is units with first missiles, then march, then hand combat, and then those with second missiles. So the Normans have initiative. So we're going to find a Norman unit with first missiles, and they do have a couple over here. So we have a couple to choose from. We'll just start with these. They're going to cast, actually, the smarter decision would be to use this unit first, because there's a possibility that one of these units could take them off the field since they already have 3 tokens. So we're going to go and activate this unit first because there's a pretty decent possibility that all they need to take is 1 more break token and they'll either be moving back or fleeing altogether. So we're going to go and activate them before that happens. So at least we get to do something with them. They're going to continue to target the cavalry here since they're already pretty close. Well, not close, but closer. The other unit has no break tokens, I should say. So they have 3. They need 4 more. So we're going to try to pile some on here. So our target number is a 3. And I have a 9, a 1, and a 1. So that's 2 successes. move these closer together so you can see them. My casualty check is a 7, and I passed. There's a 10. Second company attacks. That's 2 successes. Casualty check is a 7 again, and I passed. And the third company attacks. And that's 2 successes, including a critical, so that's a automatic break token here. And let's make our casualty check. And I passed. I did get an 8 there, so they do pass it. So they are done. The Wood Elves make an attack now, and we're kind of the same line of thinking. We're going to go ahead and get some shots off with this unit just in case, because they have 4. They can only take 2 more, and then they can either be withdrawing or fleeing. So we're going to get an action in with them now. And they're going to target the archers over here, the ones that are pretty close to breaking. They can kind of see them wavering already. So they're going to try to put them over the edge. So we've got 4 dice, and our target numbers are 3. And let's see, we've got 2 successes. I got a 3 and a 5, so it's not a very good roll since I only needed 3s. My casualty check number is a 7. Passed. The second unit of archers attacks. That's 4 successes, including a 10. That's an automatic breakpoint on the archers, so that's not good for them. My casualty check is a 9. Passed with a 10. And now the third unit attacks. Sorry, third company attacks. 3 successes. So my casualty check is an 8. And I failed. So that's another break token. So the archers over here, the Norman archers, they now have 5 break tokens on them. And they can only take 3. So remember, you can only have a number of break tokens equal to the unit's current presence. Their current presence is a 3. They have 5 break tokens. So at this point, they are either going to withdraw or flee the field. So let's see what happens. Now, as the Norman player, I could choose to use a leadership action with this. That's probably will be the smart thing to do, but we're not going to do it in this case. We're just going to make a straight roll. So that's 2 dice. I need a 6. And I got a 10 and a 6. So they pass. So they don't actually remove any tokens for that. And they don't flee the field, but they do conduct sort of an orderly withdrawal. So they go back at a charge pace, which is 15 centimeters. So you can think of this as the unit's commander basically simply moving that unit back a bit. So, and you can see I just kind of moved them back 15 centimeters. I didn't quite move the camera with it, but you can see they did move back 15 centimeters. Now, the skirmishers here, skirmishers have a 360-degree line of sight, which means they saw this unit moving back, and they were also within 10 centimeters. So if a friendly unit within 10 centimeters and with line of sight sees a friendly unit either fall back or break, they must also make a command check. So they're going to make their command check. I rolled a 6 and a 1, so I passed. If they had failed, they would have received 2 break tokens. All right, so now we're going to go to the back to the Norman players. They're going to activate this unit of archers, and they're going to discharge some arrows at these at the cavalry here, at this cavalry. So our target number is a 3. And I have 3 successes. I rolled a 3, an 8, and a 9. So my casualty check number here is an 8. Oh, that's not good. That is, that's 2 1s. That's a pretty bad roll. Again, that means I failed the casualty check, and I also rolled equal to or lower than the weapon's kill number, which is a 1 for a bow. So one of those companies is removed from the game as a casualty. Now the second company attacks, and I have 2 successes with a 3 and a 6. My casualty check, I fail. I rolled a 2 and a 2. Didn't roll the kill number, but I did fail, which gives them another token. Now, since that unit just lost a company, their total presence went from 6 to 4, which now puts them over, which means they now have more break tokens in their current presence. So, just like the archers did a moment ago, they must test to either to either withdraw or fall back. But the elf player, they're going to elect to use a leadership dice here for this. And I passed. I got a 10, a 9, and a 1, but they only needed 1 success there, so that's good. But they still withdraw. They don't flee the field. But the negative is that this unit is really fast. So they move at their charge pace, which is 27 centimeters back. So if you go back and look here, you can see they're going to go from here all the way back. So they beat a hasty retreat. And our archers here, I didn't measure before I moved. I should have measured. Let's see. Yeah, that would have been, so they would have been within 10 centimeters as well. This unit would have been within 10 centimeters and had line of sight. So they're going to make that break check. Or I'm sorry, they're going to make that casualty check. I failed. I rolled a 2 and a 4. And that means this unit receives 2 break tokens. The sight of that friendly unit losing nerve and retreating caused them to lose a bit of their nerve as well. All right, now we're going to go ahead and activate that unit. And let's see who they can target. Let's see. They're going to target these archers across the way. So that's 3 companies attacking. My target numbers are 3. That's 4 successes. So I need a 9 on my casualty check. I passed with a 10. The second company, that's 4 more successes. So my casualty check here is a 9. I failed, so that's a break token on those archers. And the third company, it's 4 more successes. So my casualty check again is a 9. And I rolled an 8 and a 10, so that's a success. All right, so that is it for that company. The Normans have no other units with first missiles, whereas the elves do, because they're elves and every elf has a bow, right? So this company here will target the Normans. Now, typically, the Normans have a defense of 6. However, they are now in a testudo, which gives them a +3 to their defense against missile weapons. So now my target number is a 9. So again, probably not the best choice of targets, but I want to demonstrate a little bit how the testudo works. So I roll my dice, and I need 9s, and that's no successes. So now the second company attacks. Again, no successes. Third company. Again, no successes. So the testudo worked out pretty well that time. There is one more unit with first missiles, and that's the Hawk Riders over here. So let's talk a bit more about flying creatures with missile weapons. So again, at airborne, they can target those crossbowmen, and likewise a crossbowman can target the Hawk Riders. So we need to know the exact distance between the two, because it's not just the typical distance here, right? So that's about 3 centimeters away. Not only are they 3 centimeters, say horizontally, we also have to know the vertical distance. So for that, we roll a dice, and I rolled a 10. So this dice roll determines the vertical distance for the flyers. So to get the total distance, we add the 10 plus the distance between the two here. So that's a total of 13 centimeters away. The short range for a bow is 12. So they're just, those crossbowmen are just out of short range. If I had rolled a little bit less with that D10 roll there, then they would be within short range. So let's make our attack. Now the crossbowmen have some armor, so they're defensive 4 and the skirmishing. So we are at 5. And that's a nice roll there by the Hawk Riders. That's 4 successes. So my crossbowmen need a 9. 4 and an 8. So that's a failure, and they receive a breakpoint. So it's a breakpoint on the crossbowmen. And that's it for first missiles. So let's look at units with march orders that have missile weapons. And I don't believe we actually have any here. We do not. So we're going to go into hand combat. We have 2 units locked in hand combat here. We have the knights against these elf spears. So hand combat is simultaneous. So it typically doesn't matter who actually rolls first. Every unit that's in combat does get to attack. Now the units that the companies that actually get to attack are those in base-to-base contact. So all 3 of these can attack. If one of these companies was maybe off to the side like this, where they're not in base-to-base contact or they're not sharing an edge, they would not be able to attack. So the only companies that can actually attack are those in base-to-base contact, or also known as like sharing an edge with the enemy. So we'll just roll for the Normans first. Now these are knights, well-trained with heavy horse, war horse. So they're going to roll 6 dice. Now we didn't give them lances or anything like that. They're just charging in with standard hand weapons, so they're not getting any kind of charge bonuses or anything like that. But the elves do have a defense of 6, so we're rolling 6 dice, and our target number is a 6. All right, let's see. We've got 4 successes, including a critical. So that is an automatic break token on our elves. And their casualty check here is a 9. And they failed. I rolled an 8 and I rolled a 1. So that's a kill number. So one of these companies is removed as a casualty. But they still get to attack because they haven't attacked yet in this combat. So even though they're being removed as a casualty, after the knights are done attacking, that company does still get to attack. All right, so let's roll the second unit, or second company of knights. That's going to be 6 successes now. So the casualty check number starts at 5, and you add to it the number of successes. So that's 6 successes. So obviously you can't roll an 11 on a 10-sided dice. So any roll of 10 is a success. My target number here is a 10 for my casualty check. And I failed. I rolled a 9 and a 5. So that's another break token on the elves. And now the third company of knights attacks. We got 2 break tokens on the elves. The third company of knights attacks. And that is 5 more successes. So now my casualty check is a 10 again. And I failed. So it's another break token. Now the elves attack back. So even though this company is being removed as a casualty, even though this company is being removed as a casualty, they still get to attack. So the elves roll 4d10. The knights are pretty well armored, so their defense is a 7. So my target number is a 7. So that is 2 successes. I needed a 7, and I got an 8, so they passed that one. The second attack, we'll call that a leanie here. Okay, so only 1 success, but it is a 10, so that's an automatic break point on the knights. And the casualty check, they failed. I rolled 2 4s, so that's another break point on the knights. And the last company of elves, that is a 7 and an 8, so that's 2 successes. And my casualty check, I passed. I got a 9 there, so that's a success. So this company is now removed. They've all attacked. And we see at the end of this combat now that the elves only have a presence of 2, because that's 2 companies of infantry, but they have 3 break tokens. So let's see what they do. This could be pretty bad for them, because there are, if we measure it out, obviously they're going to be within 10 centimeters. These archers here are within 10 centimeters. So this could be pretty bad for the elves. So let's roll to see what they do. Again, on a pass, they just fall back. On a failure, they rout. Rolled a 4 and an 8, so they passed. So they simply fall back. Again, when we're falling back, we basically ignore terrain and friendly units and that sort of thing. So you can see I am simply moving them back 15 centimeters. The treemen obviously saw that. They're sitting right in front of them. So let's see what happens with them. They passed their test, so nothing happens. And now we're going to test these elves over here. So they really need to pass. They already have 2. If they fail this check, they're going to receive 2 more, which is going to put them above their break value, and then they are either going to fall back or rout. So let's see what happens. An 8 and a 1. So they pass. So likewise, they receive no extra break tokens for that. That is it for hand combat. Second missiles. The Normans have initiative. So kind of snuggled behind the Hawk Riders here. We have our crossbowmen, and they do have second missiles, and they have those heavy crossbows. They are not within short range, however, just out of short range, because remember, it was 3 centimeters this way, 10 centimeters up, which makes them a total of 13, and the short range is 12. So those Hawk Riders have no armor, but they are skirmishing. So my target number is a 3. So I'm going to make my attack. And I have 3 successes. So my Hawks make their casualty check. I need an 8. Passed. The second company of crossbows attacks. 2 successes. Failed. I needed a 7. I got a 4 and a 6. So that is a break point on the Hawks. And the third company attacks. 3 more successes. And I failed. I needed a 7. I got a 4, and I rolled the kill number. So those hawks are gone. They are removed from the game. A little cloud of feathers came cascading down. All right, we do have one more unit with second missiles. Remove the order from those crossbowmen, and that is the ballista here. So the ballista is going to target the Normans across the way. We already know what they're within range. So I'm going to roll 4 dice. Again, normally the Normans have a defense of 6. They're a testudo, which means they're at a 9. Though the ballista gives them armor piercing of 1, which reduces that to 8. So let's make our attack. And that's no successes. That's 3, 2 6s, and a 7. So the ballista does nothing. So that testudo worked out really, really well for those Normans this turn. That is it for combat. Let's go into the end turn. All right, we've wrapped up combat on the second turn. We're going to go into our end turn phase. So if you remember, we're going to remove tokens. So if there's whatever order tokens are remaining, we take them off. And now units with breakpoints are going to get an opportunity to remove them. So we're going to start with our crossbowmen here. We have 1 success. They only have 1 token, so they remove it. The Normans, the infantry, with a 2 and a 1, they fail, so that token stays. Let's do these, the elf infantry here. So first they get a chance to remove, which they do. They remove 1, which is good. If they had not removed one of those tokens, then they would either continue to fall back or rout, just like before. But they do remove 1. So now they are right at their break value. So they are, I wouldn't say okay, but they're not, they are not forced to either continue withdrawing or simply fleeing at this point. Let's check our archers here. They remove 1. Check our knights. They remove both of theirs. Now we have, let's see, we have the elf cavalry here. They need to remove 1. I'm sorry, they need to remove, they need to remove at least 1. If they don't, then that unit is going to fall back off the table at the rate they move. Rolled a 7 and a 6. That means they removed 2. So they are, that was good. Better shape for them. All right, across the way, we have these Norman archers. They do not remove theirs. And those Norman archers over here need to remove 1, or they are going to continue falling back, or they may rout. They don't remove either. They remove none of theirs. So since at the end of the turn, they are still above their break value, now they must check to see if they fall back or rout. So we roll. They pass, so they simply continue falling back. So I'm going to remove them. Sorry, I'm going to move them back 15 centimeters. 1 or 2 more of those, and you can see they're pretty close to the table edge here. If they continue falling back, and if they fall back off the table edge, and they are out of the battle. All right, that is it for turn 2. All right, so as we start turn 3, let's do a quick recap of where we are. So we've had some casualties. So we've had some Normans lost. The Hawk Rare has been lost for the Elves, which is fairly significant. We have a couple of units. Well, I guess I should say 1 unit at this point that is currently falling back and in danger of simply fleeing the field, and that's the Normans on the far side there. We have some elf cavalry archers, which are fairly close, and we have this unit of elf spearmen, which are also pretty close to fleeing the field. So I've already issued all the orders, so now we are going to check initiative here. So the elves are going to roll 2 dice, 10 and a 7, so that's 2 successes. The Normans roll 10 and a 5, 1 success. So the elves win initiative, so they're going to go first. And let's move on to the reveal orders and movement turn, or movement phase. All right, so the elves have initiative, so they are going to select a unit to activate first. And, we'll just go with these treatment here. They have charge orders. So they are going to charge the knights. The knights have a total presence of 6, 2 per company. The treatment here, these are considered large infantry. The other infantry we're dealing with, such as these archers and these spearmen, those are just infantry, whereas these treatment are here. These are large infantry. So each company here is 2 presence as well, just like the cavalry. So we have a 6 presence against a 6 presence, which means neither side has to make any kind of tests for combat. So the knights, again, they have options. If they have missile weapons, they can discharge them, but they don't. They could flee, or they can take the charge. They're knights, so of course they're just going to take the charge. So we move our treatment into combat, and we flip that knight's order. It's a charge as well, so they were going to charge if the treatment didn't. But again, flipping this order as a response to the treatment coming into combat does not count as actually activating that unit, though. So the Normans are still obligated to activate a unit. So they will activate their archers here. They have march orders, so they are going to move up a bit. And they're actually going to move up and kind of take a bit of an angle here, so they can try to get maybe a bit more, I guess, a bit closer into combat, because that far company, I didn't measure, but I believe it was out of range. So now the Wood Elves activate a unit. First missiles. And we have this unit of Norman archers way out here that are gradually just falling back. So they're going to flip the order. It's march orders, though, since they are above their break value, they really can't actually do anything. So they have to stand pat there. All right, so let's go back to our elves. And we're going to activate this unit of cavalry here. They are going to move forward, and so with march orders, they can go up to twice their move, so they could go up to 18 centimeters. So they'll go ahead and take that full movement. And the goal here being that basically they're going to try to combine with this unit of archers. They're going to try to pour as much missile, as many arrows onto these Norman archers as possible. All right, so let's find a unit of Normans to activate. We're going to activate this infantry here. Now they are within threat range of these treatment here, so they simply can't make that kind of freewheeling movement. So, for example, they can't just simply slide this way or what have you. So, when you're within a threat zone of an enemy, you can only move front or back. So in this case, the knights are kind of in the way. Now I could maybe start wheeling them this way, or I could do perhaps a backwards wheel and maybe try to start maneuvering them this way. So that's actually what I'm going to do here, because they maybe want to get into combat with these archers here, or they could kind of stay here just in anticipation of those if something happens to the knights. But we're going to go ahead and basically just try to get them in a position where they can come into combat contact with these elves here. So again, since they're within the threat range or threat zone of these treemen, they can only move frontwards or backwards. They can't just simply move side to side or what have you. That freewheeling movement is no longer an option. So at this point, they basically have to do a backwards wheel. So we just take one of the units here, and they're going to wheel back this way. And at that point, we simply just move the others to make contact. So it's a slow movement when you're doing this. But we institute that threat zone and that restricted combat just to make things a little more tactical at that point. All right. The Elves activate a unit. They are going to activate these spearmen here. They're actually not going to move. They're going to stay back and see if they can actually remove some tokens at the end of this turn. They're going to see if the commander can kind of rally those troops a bit. All right, so let's go over to our Normans. And the Normans are going to activate this unit of infantry here. Now that infantry, they are in a testudo. Now that testudo restricts movement. When you're in a testudo, you are restricted to your ordinary pace, which is equal to your move. So their move is 5, so they can only move 5 centimeters. Now let's just say they didn't have that testudo, so let's just take this off for a moment. So I want to illustrate something with movement here. So let's say they were just moving at a regular march, they're just in a regular line formation, and they're going to move into this field. This field is rough ground. Anytime you move into rough ground or you're moving through rough ground, you are limited to your ordinary pace as well. And again, your ordinary pace is equal to your move. So in this case, their ordinary pace is 5 centimeters because that's what their move is. So let's just illustrate how that works. So the Normans would move. They would move about a centimeter. At which point they would come into contact with this rough ground. When they come into contact with the rough ground, their move is immediately reduced to a maximum of their ordinary pace. So in this case, 5 centimeters. Since they've already moved 4, since they've already moved 1, that means they can only move 4 more centimeters. That gives them a total of 5. So that's how it would work if that unit was moving into rough ground. I'm going to put their testudo token back on them now. All right, let's go to the Elves. They're going to activate their ballistae, second missiles. The Normans are going to activate these crossbowmen, and they have second missiles. Let's see, and these Wood Elves are going to activate these archers. They have second missiles. There are no more Normans to activate, so we activate these tree folk, these treemen, and these are again our monsters. So, and they're going to charge into those crossbowmen, so it's well within range. Now these treemen have a total presence of 3. The crossbowmen, the unit also has a total presence of 3. So since they're equal, there's no checks involved. Now, so the crossbowmen can now have some options. They can voluntarily withdraw. They can take the charge. Now, if they had a different type of missile weapon, if they had regular bows, they could discharge those missiles as the treemen charge in. Though since the crossbows are second missiles, they don't have that option. So these large tree folk, these giant tree folk, they charge into combat against those crossbowmen. That's probably not going to work out too well for the crossbowmen. All right, that is all of our units. They've all been activated. So we are going to move into combat. All right, we're going to pick up with combat in turn 3. We have a few different situations to go over, including some more hand combat. So the Wood Elves have initiative. Remember, our order in combat is first missiles, then march, then hand combat, followed by second missiles. So the Wood Elves are going to nominate a unit to activate, and then nominate a target. And we'll go with the cavalry archers here. So they'll target these Norman archers well within range, but out of short range. So we're rolling 4 dice. Our target number is a 3. And I've got, looks like 3 successes here. So the Normans make their casualty save, or casualty check rather. We have an 8, 3, and a 4. So that's a failure. So that's another break point on the archers. And the second company of elf cavalry attacks. That's 3 successes. My casualty check is an 8. That is also a failure. So that is another break point on our Norman archers here. Now they are now above their break value. So their break value is a 2. That's 2 infantry companies, each with a presence of 1. So the unit has a total presence of 2. But they are at 3 break points. So they are making their they're making their check now, their break check, to see what happens. If they pass, they fall back. If they fail, they rout from the table. All right, well, I've got a 10 and a 3. So that is a pass. So this unit moves back 15 centimeters. The Normans have no units with first missiles, so we're going back to the Wood Elves. And they have some archers here that can attack. These may now be out of range. Just barely. They are out of range. But what we can do is split up the attack. So what we can do here is, this company is within range here, so we can choose to continue targeting that company, maybe put another break point on them. And we can also have these 2 companies target the warriors here, target the Norman warriors there, rather. So let's do that. So the company here, we're gonna target the archers here first, and this is just again, concentrated fire. And because there's a chance that at the end of the turn they could remove enough break points where they're coming back. So if we can put more break points on them, that's going to reduce the chance of them actually just coming back into the battle. So we make our attack, and I need 3s, and that's 3 successes. So I'm making my casualty check with an 8, and I passed. I got a 10 here. So no, that did not work out well for those elves. So now they're going to make their attacks against the infantry there. My target number here is a 6. That's 2 successes. That's 2 successes, including a critical. So they're going to get an automatic breakpoint. Here's my casualty check. Oh, that's a bad as bad can get there. 2 1s. So they failed the casualty check and they rolled that kill number. So one of those units is, one of those companies is picked up from the table. The second company of elves attacks. That's 3 successes. So my casualty check here is an 8. And I failed, though I did not get that kill number. So that's just another breakpoint. But they are right on the brink now. They have their presence is 2, and they have 2 breakpoints. The elves have 1 more unit with first missiles. That's our archers here. They are going to target the advancing, the Normans that are advancing over that field. So that Testudo gives those Normans a +3 to their defense. So normally it's a 6, but since they're in that Testudo, they have +3 against missile weapons. So my target number is now a 9. And 1 success. So my casualty check here is a 6. I failed, but I did not get the kill number. So that's another break point. The second company attacks. That's a success with a critical. So that's another break point on the Normans. Their casualty check passed. The third company attacks. 1 success, which is a critical. So it's another breakpoint for those Normans. Here's our casualty check, which they pass with a 10. But those Normans are also now over their breakpoint value. Their presence is a 2. They have 4 breakpoints. So they are now obligated to make that break check to see what happens. They pass that check. I rolled a 9 and a 3, so they fall back. And at that point, they automatically abandon that Testudo formation, and they simply move back 15 centimeters. So they move back 15 centimeters here. The crossbowmen were within 10, and since they're in skirmishing formation, they have a 360-degree line of sight. So they saw those Normans moving back. So they are obligated to make a command check as well. They pass with a 7 and an 8. If they had failed that check, then they would have received, the crossbowmen would have received 2 breakpoints. All right, that is it for first missiles. Do we have any elves with missile weapons on march? We do not. We do have 2 units of Normans with missile weapons on march orders. These archer units, though, they are both currently falling back, so neither of them can actually engage the enemy with missiles, so they can't do anything. So now we go on to hand combat, and we have 2 hand combats to deal with. First off, we're going to take care of these knights versus these tree folk. So we're going to have the knights attack first. Again, remember, hand combat is simultaneous. The knights roll 6 dice for their attack. The tree folk have a defense of 4. So we roll, and we have that's 3 successes, including a critical. So that's 1 breakpoint. Now these tree folk have a special ability called toughness. Now normally when you make your casualty checks, you're rolling your command dice, which for most units is 2 dice. Though with toughness, you get extra dice. So in their case, they have a toughness of a 1, so they're getting a bonus dice. Now, you can only benefit from this bonus dice. So in the course of making my casualty check, if I were to fail the casualty check, and let's say this dice rolls that kill number, let's just say it rolls a 2, which is a kill number for most hand weapons, then that if the unit actually is not removed as a casualty, because you cannot, the dice you get from toughness, it can only benefit the unit. So if you fail your casualty check and the dice from toughness rolls that kill number, it does not actually count towards a casualty. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that now. So I roll my dice, and I needed an 8, and you can see I actually got a 9 and a 10, so they pass that casualty check. So the second company of knights attacks, and I got 4 successes. So here's my casualty check, and that's a really bad roll. So the 1 on this dice does not count towards a casualty. However, I did roll casualty numbers for the 2 and the 1. So one of these units of tree folk is actually removed from combat. Again, combat simultaneous, so I'm just going to kind of slide them off to the side. That way I remember that they still get to attack. All right, the third company of knights attacks. And let's see, I've got, that is 5 successes, including a critical. So that's another break point on the tree folk. Here's your casualty check. And I needed a 10. I did not get it, but I did not fail the kill number. So it's another break point. All right, so the tree folk attack back. They've got 4 dice. They have 2-handed weapons, which gives them armor piercing of 1. So the knight's defense is reduced from 7 to 6. So I need 6s. And I've got 3 successes. So casualty check is an 8. And I've got a 2 and a 10. So that is a pass. The second unit of tree folk, or second company, I should say, 2 successes. So I need a 7, a 1, and a 6. So I failed, and I rolled the kill number. So we are losing some knights. The last company, not a very good roll there. We got 1 success with a 6. But the knights say, "Hey, I see your bad roll, and I'm going to up you 1." So their casualty check, they roll a 2 and a 1. So that is another failure with a casualty. So from that combat, we lost a unit of treemen, or tree folk. We lost 2 companies of knights. So the knights did not fare well in that combat. Now the tree folk here are left with 3 breakpoints, but they're large infantry. So unlike regular infantry, in which each base counts as a presence of 1, large infantry counts as a presence of 2 per base. So they have a total presence of 4, and they have 3 breakpoints. So they are still okay. All right, let's go over to our last hand combat. This is our tree folk elder against these crossbowmen. So we'll have the tree folk elder attack first. He rolls 6 dice against the crossbowmen's defense, which is a 4. They do not get that +1 defense for skirmishing in hand combat. That's only against missile weapons. So we roll our attack. I need 4s. And let's see, I've got 4 successes, including a critical. So they're going to get the crossbowmen are going to get a break point there. And they're going to make their casualty check, and they need a 9. And they got it, a 10. So, again, to point out, hand combat is only against units that are base to base or adjacent to each other, or they're sharing an edge. So this company cannot attack. It's only this company. So diagonal does not count for hand combat. All right, so now the crossbowmen are going to attack back. So this tree folk elder, he has a special ability called fear. And fear serves to, we symbolize fear in the game by reducing the combat effectiveness of units while they're in hand combat. So what that means is these crossbowmen, typically their hand combat is 3 dice, though with that fear, and the tree folk has a fear level of 1, that means that the crossbow company's hand combat is reduced by 1. So it goes down from 3d10 to 2d10. So they're only rolling 2 dice for their hand combat, and my target number is a 5. And that's still 2 successes. So the tree folk elder is rolling his casualty dice, and he has toughness as well, but he has 2 dice instead of the 1 that the other little tree folk had. So he's actually rolling 4 dice. And my casualty check number is a 7. And you can see I passed. I've got 3 dice that passed that roll there. So the moral here with monsters, when you get to like giants and dragons and giant tree folk and what have you, is that they're not really necessarily more difficult to hit, though they are more difficult to damage typically. So these creatures that have toughness doesn't mean they're more difficult to hit, though actually damaging them can be a challenge. All right, so that's it for hand combat. Let's move on to second missiles. And we have this unit here of this ballista unit. He's going to go ahead and target the Normans across the way. And just the thought process here is that yes, they have 2 breakpoints, but at the end of the turn they could get rid of 2 of those and come back into the battle. They could rally back into the battle. So we're going to try to keep pouring it on. So here's our attack. Rolling 4 dice. Their defense is reduced by 1 because of the armor piercing. So I need 5s. And I've got 3 successes. So my casualty check here is an 8. And I passed. So that did not work out for the ballista. The last company, our last unit, is the crossbowmen here. This company cannot shoot their bows because they're engaged, though these can. Technically, they can shoot at the tree folk elder because he is a giant creature. Now, if they were going to shoot into hand combat like that against a creature that's not giant, then just depending upon what rule you want to use, because we do have some optional rules in the game, that unit they're targeting could either receive a bonus to their defense, or you could risk hitting your own troops. But since this is a giant creature, that rule does not apply. So these 2 companies can target those tree folk elders without risking hitting their own their fellow troops. So that's what we're going to do here. Now, since this is not hand combat, that fear does not reduce their range attack value. So we're going to roll 3 dice. My target number is a 5. That is 2 successes, including a critical. So now the Tree Folk Elder is going to make his casualty check. Remember, he has toughness, so he's rolling 2 extra dice. And I need a 7. And that's a really good roll. Look at that. 3 10s and an 8. So he just brushed that off, no problem. The other company of crossbowmen will attack. It's 3 more successes, including another critical. So here's their casualty. Here's the Tree Folk Elder's casualty check. And I need 8s. And see, this is an instance in which that toughness dice worked out, right? Because I have a 4 and a 2. So normally they would have failed, but they've got an 8 there on that one of those toughness dice. So that saved them that time. So we passed that casualty check. That is all of combat. So let's move on to the intern. Okay, so we're in our intern phase, and so the first thing we're going to do is remove all the orders we still have issued. So I'm going to grab all these off the table. Got several laying about here that I can take off. Let's see, I've got several over here. And we've got one hiding back here. All right, so that's all the orders. All the orders are off the table. Now we're going to check to remove breakpoints. So we'll start with this Tree Folk Elder. He removes 1. I've got 1 success, so he removes 1 of his breakpoints. Now we're going to check for those the Norman crossbowmen. They've got 2 successes, so they remove theirs. Now our infantry back here, they've got 4, so they really need to get rid of 2 of these. If they don't, they're either going to continue falling back or rout. So let's roll 2 1s, so they really apparently just don't want to be in this battle anymore. So they don't remove any. Let's see what happens. They either continue falling back or they rout. They continue falling back. I passed that test. So they are going to fall back a further 15 centimeters. All right, we've got quite a few units over here with breakpoints. So if you remember, we intentionally left these wood elves back because we wanted to give them a chance to get rid of some of those breakpoints. So let's see if that strategy works out now. And I rolled a 4 and a 9, so they got rid of 1 of them. Not too bad. The Tree Folk, 3 and a 3, they remove none. Our Norman infantry here, they remove 1. Archers, they remove their single breakpoint. And our cavalry, they remove 1 of theirs. Now let's see what's going on back here. Let's see what they remove 1 of theirs, so they are now okay. Since their presence is a 2 and they only have 2 breakpoints, well, I shouldn't say only, but they're not above their breakpoint value at this point, so they no longer have to check to see if they fall back. Now these archers back here, they need to get rid of 2, so let's see what happens. And they do not. They only get rid of 1 of theirs. So we remove 1, but they are still above their break value here. So let's see if they fall back or rout. 7 and a 2, so they pass. So they fall back an additional 15 centimeters, which is going to put them pretty much right at the border. Yeah, they are nearly gone. If a unit does fall back and to the point where it falls back off the table, that's the same as routing. So next turn, if they don't get rid of some of those tokens, they're going to be gone either way. So that's a point where, as the normal player, I would probably choose maybe to use some of my leadership dice to increase my odds of getting rid of some of those. So that is all for turn 3, and I think we'll end the demo there. We saw, I think, a little bit of everything. We saw how we issue orders, how we do initiative, all of combat. We saw ranged combat. We saw some hand combat. We saw some combat with monsters. We saw some combat with our flyers, with an engine of war here with the ballista. And we got to see a good demonstration of breakpoints and how they work, how they accumulate, maybe some of the decision factors you have to make as a player when you have a unit that's accumulating those breakpoints. So I think all in all, that was a nice little demo, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.